The register beeps. The number comes up. You look at it the same way you look at something you already know is wrong, but you check anyway. The USDA puts the average SNAP benefit at $6.16 per person per day in fiscal year 2025. That's about $187 a month, spread across 41 million people. You are one of them. The question is not how you got here. The question is what you are willing to give up to stop. You know which aisles to avoid, not because they're dangerous, because they're aspirational. And aspiration at this level is a tax you can't afford. The store brand version of almost everything is identical to the name brand version that costs 30% more. You learned this not from an article, but from standing in a fluorescent aisle at 7 in the evening doing arithmetic in your head. The Bureau of Labor Statistics found that Americans in the lowest income quintile spent $35,046 total in 2024. Housing, food, the bus pass, the copay, all of it. $35,046 for the year. That number has a weight to it, not a metaphorical weight, an actual one. What you gain here is precision, a kind of knowledge that money, later, makes it very hard to keep. You know where things come from. You know which foods hold for a week. You know that the checkout line with the younger cashier moves slightly faster than the one with the self-scanner that jams. This is not a small thing. This is the kind of knowing that most people spend their whole lives avoiding. What you give up is the future tense. You stop making plans beyond Thursday. Plans feel like a form of lying to yourself. And you have learned to be honest in the specific way that scarcity teaches. There is something gray at this level that nobody names out loud. The things sold in the cheapest stores cost more per unit than the same things in the expensive ones. The smaller bottle is not cheaper. It is more expensive per ounce, always. You understand without being told that being poor is expensive, that this is a structure, that it has been for a long time. You observe it without needing anyone to explain it to you. 1 week you have something left over. Not much, but something. You buy a thing you don't need. You do not feel guilty. You feel, briefly, like a person making a choice rather than a calculation. That is not nothing. The car goes, or the hours get cut, or the thing you thought was stable turns out to have been timing, which is different from stability. 3 weeks of emergency fund is not really an emergency fund. You discover this in real time. You go back, the register beeps, the number is wrong again. You already know this. You check anyway. You are moving now, not there, but moving. The rhythm of it has changed. You can see the next level from where you stand. You can see it the way you see the name brand aisle from the store brand aisle. Adjacent, present, not yours. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported the national average annual household expenditure at $78,535 in 2024, with average pre-tax income reaching $104,207. That is the mean. It tells you something about the shape of the room, but nothing about where you are standing in it. You are below it. You are increasingly aware of this. What you gain is steadiness. Not safety, steadiness. A rhythm that broke didn't have. Your body stops waiting for the thing to go wrong. This is different from things not going wrong, but it feels, in the moment, similar. And what you give up is the ability to stop calculating. Even when the money changes, and it will change, the calculation stays. You will be in a restaurant 10 years from now with a different number in your account, and you will still notice what things cost. The counting doesn't leave. It becomes part of how you see. You already know what this means. You just don't have the name for it yet. You stop noticing prices the way you used to. They register. They don't stop you. This is the shift, and it is subtler than you expected. The Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia reported that by the fourth quarter of 2024, 11.12% of large bank credit card accounts were making only the minimum payment, a 12-year series high, the highest on record since the dataset began in 2012. You are not one of them. You are aware, in a low-level, persistent way, that you are not far from being one of them, that awareness sits just below the surface of the candle you bought, and the wine that costs $17, and the streaming service you haven't canceled. You buy things now, not just what you need, things. A diffuser, a coat that was on sale but was still more than you would have spent 2 years ago, a dinner out on a Tuesday because you felt like it. You don't think of these as markers. They are markers. What you gain is the sensation of not thinking, the specific relief of reaching for something without running the consequence. This feels, for a while, like freedom. It is adjacent to freedom. What you give up is the precision. You no longer know the price per ounce of anything. You tell yourself, this is progress. It is not entirely progress. You look at the level above you and think, one promotion, one good year, one thing. You have been thinking this for 3 years. One night you run the actual number. What comes in? What goes out? What the accounts say versus what the accounts should say. The number is wrong, not catastrophically wrong. Wrong the way a slow leak is wrong. Quiet, consistent, and only dangerous if you ignore it long enough. You sit with it, then you close the spreadsheet. You open it again 2 months later. You do the same thing. The gap is the same. There is a version of this you remember from when you were 7. The grocery store. Your mother's hand on a box of cereal, held for a moment, then returned to the shelf. You didn't understand the geometry of that gesture then. You understand it now. She would buy you one thing, always. Something small, something you chose, and she made it feel like a choice rather than a limit. You don't know if she knew she was doing that, whether it was deliberate or instinct, or something her own mother had done in her own version of the same fluorescent aisle. You wonder sometimes what it cost her. Not the dollar amount, the other cost, the one that doesn't appear on any receipt. The things we carry from childhood are never about the money, and yet the money is always there, underneath, holding the shape of everything else. You are at a different level now, the level at which the word budget sounds like something other people use. You have forgotten the price of butter. This is what you wanted. This is exactly what you wanted. According to Moody's Analytics, drawing on Federal Reserve data, the top 10% of U.S. earners accounted for 49.2% of all consumer spending in the second quarter of 2025, the highest share recorded since data collection began in 1989. You are at the edge of that number or inside it. Either way, you can feel both sides of it. What you gain here is the room, the buffer, the sense that an emergency is an inconvenience rather than an ending. This is not a small thing. This is the thing. What you give up is harder to name. A relationship that cannot survive the distance that money creates. Not through argument, but through silence. Through the moment at dinner when you pick up the check without looking at it, and something shifts in the person across from you. They don't say anything. You don't say anything. But the room changes. You shop differently now because the system routes you there. The personal shopper calls. The early access notification arrives. You were handed a different entrance, and you walked through it so smoothly that you barely noticed the door. This is where the machine becomes visible, if you know what to look for. The system that routes certain people to certain products, certain prices, certain experiences, it has an architecture. It was designed. And at this level, you are fed into it on the comfortable side of the feed. The wealthiest Americans own 87% of all U.S. corporate equities and mutual fund shares, worth roughly $44 trillion in 2025, according to Federal Reserve data, which means that when the market rises, the shopping follows. Not because these people feel richer exactly, because they are richer. The number changed. The card reflects it. The store already knows. Shopping at this level is a service that happens to you rather than an act you perform. The groceries arrive curated. The wardrobe is managed. Selection exists inside a perimeter, and you did not draw the perimeter. You inherited it, or earned it, or both. And the distinction matters less than you'd expect once you're inside. What you give up is the accident. The unexpected thing you found on a Saturday afternoon because you were wandering and nothing was planned. That is gone. Everything is curated now. The pleasant surprise has been optimized out of the experience. The Federal Reserve's distributional financial accounts, updated in January 2026, put the net worth held by the top 1% of Americans at $54.8 trillion as of Q3 2025, 31.7% of the country's entire household wealth. At the absolute peak of that number, the word shopping no longer applies. You commission. You have things made. You acquire assets. Bain & Company, in its November 2025 luxury goods worldwide market study, found that big spender, ultra-wealthy buyers now account for 46 to 47% of the entire personal luxury goods market, approximately 165 billion euros of a 358 billion euro sector. Total global luxury spending across all categories reached 1.44 trillion euros in 2025. You are not moving a market. The category of person you belong to is moving it. What shopping feels like here is not pleasure and not transaction. It is curation of a self that is also a statement. Every item arrives with a relationship attached. The craftsman, the atelier, the provenance. You do not go to a store. A store, in some arrangements, comes to you. What it costs to be here is not money. The money is settled. What it costs is legibility. You are no longer a person who wants things. You are a demographic, a market segment, a symbol that other people read. Every purchase you make has a story being told about you by someone who will never meet you. You have not stood at a register in years. You do not remember what it feels like to put the card in and wait. But it felt like something once. It felt like something specific. The register beeps. The number comes up. She looks at it the way you look at something you already know is wrong. But check anyway. $6.16 left for today. She knows which line moves fastest. She knows the store brand version is identical. She has mapped the store without ever writing anything down. She picks up one thing she doesn't need, something small, something she chose. She puts it in the basket. She does not feel guilty. She feels for a moment like a person making a choice. She thinks one thing at a time. She thinks one promotion, one good year, one thing. She has been thinking this for 3 weeks. You got out, or you didn't. Or you're still deciding what out even means, from wherever you're standing now. The register doesn't know which one you are. It just beeps.